Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. And today we're going to talk about math and Scryed, and we're also going to talk about more power and more, shine brighter. I like that line, by the way. Um, so that's what Cosmo says as you go on throughout Scryed. So my whole thing is like we're gonna talk about the anime Scryed, and we're gonna talk about the anime itself, my feelings towards it, and how math is used throughout it, both in the universe and behind the scenes in the more meta sense. So yeah, I look forward to it. And yes, you are free to assume that there are going to be spoilers ahead because I am not holding back. All right. And through this video, I'm gonna get through it. I'll crush my way through or cut my way through. Either way. I dig that show and the energy and attitude if you could not tell. So yeah, spoilers ahead. Keep that in mind. If you're okay with it, we'll keep on going. If you're not, fair. I get it. So let's get into it. And again, spoilers ahead. Okay, so when it comes to Scryed, some of y'all may have heard about it, and some of you may have not. So I first saw it nearly 20 years ago, and I've watched it several times since, and it had been a while since the last time, but I rewatched it just like recently. And not only is it an anime that I enjoy for the characters, the story, and the action, but I also have an even greater appreciation for it upon rewatching. And that's saying something because I enjoyed all the things that I said, and also the music. Can't stress that enough. But I also appreciate the editing choices, the transitions, the colors, and all of that is mathematical. I don't know what that action was or what that was either. I'm excited, and I had so much fun rewatching it. It was freaking awesome. Like I don't get to watch anime like I get to or used to, right? Because like I could just mirth on this and that like back in the day, and it wasn't even a thing. But life. But so getting back to Scryed to start, it is an anime that's 26 episodes, around like 20 minutes each, or give or take. And it's awesome. So the idea, again, spoiler ahead. The basic premise, though, is that you have a part in Japan where it gets kind of not quite eaten up, but like there's an upheaval, and it's kind of like a doorway to another world opens up, another universe, the other side. Um, and since that happened, people that were born there or live there begin to develop powers, and these powers are called alters, and the people using them are alter users. And the idea of alter power is that you're taking a matter around you, you're deconstructing it, and you're reconstructing it in some new form, in the form of your power that is like it reflects the user. And I think that's cool. And throughout it, there are several. Oh, I don't know what happened to my voice there for a second. Oh my god. There are several characters that show up, but the story focuses mainly on Kazuma, but arguably just as much on Ryoho. Um, and there are different supporting characters like Kanami and Charisse and Memory and Straight Cougar, stuff like that. Um, yeah, so it's a fighting anime, but there is it's got a lot going for it outside of that too. But just to be clear, the fighting is awesome, the action is awesome, and so throughout the story, you're dealing with the characters and how they grow, and there's a conflict between alter users and the mainland. And with the mainland, they've created a force to manage the lost ground, which is where the alters live, or the alter users live. um, yeah, and so you have Hold, that organization that works for the mainland, and then they have Holy, is a subsect of Hold, and they're composed of alter users and really powerful ones too. Some of them have been modified by the mainland, and that's a whole different like plot point. But yeah, So it's an awesome anime. It starts off pretty good, and then it gets fundamentally bonkers in the best way, and I dig it. I freaking dig it. I like that energy, in addition to everything else that I mentioned, and that idea of carving out your own path, and getting more powerful, shining brighter. So if we get into the mathematical side of things, if we're looking at if we focus real quick on the in-universe stuff, they use math how we tend to use it in the real world in their everyday life, right? It's in their technology, it's in how they navigate things. Because you like even like just a plan, right? Because you might be like, okay, well, if they're going like and they're infiltrating, like, sorry, if one side is infiltrating the other, they might be like, okay, well, there's X amount of people, and we're looking at their position, like this person's position, that person's position, which you can map out. And again, that's something that's mathematical. Then you also just have, again, the everyday life, like the buildings in that world, how those are composed, how things scale, and alter users comparing their power to one another. And I think that's pretty cool. And also the idea of alter use in the first place, right? Like you're looking at how powerful these alter users can get, and like the more powerful they get, the more matter that they're deconstruction, or sorry, that they're deconstructing, and that within itself gets interesting to like scale and look at, and you get a visual, blah, 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 visual indication of things. And again, there's just like no shortage of it. And also, like, I like how in the beginning, Kazuma, he has like three bullets based on the blades on his back. And of course, mathing that, and they increase in power. And then once they're done, they're done. And then later he gets the shell bullet. Um, and it's interesting to see like the visual indicators of how powerful that is, like the how much matter that gets consumed, and what it does. And it's just cool to see like things within universe. But then if you start to expand that, it gets pretty cool because one, you have this story spread out over 26 episodes, and there's math in deciding that, and some of it is the structure of a lot of anime, like having these like 26 episode seasons and stuff. But they had to decide how many episodes it was going to be, if they were going to do more than one season. They had to decide how often, I'm sorry, how much, oh my god, how long the episodes were going to be. Um, and again, that's dictated by like just how some scheduling works. um, but so you got the time, like the amount of episodes, the time for each episode, and then how things play off. Well, I can speak. God, this video, I can speak. So you have the things that I just mentioned, but you also have how things play out in a given episode and how that plays into a larger picture. And you're seeing these characters get progressively powerful. And, there's a visual language to depict that, right? Like there's different things to depict that, like what's happening with the characters, how much like damage is being shown, the amount of light sometimes, and energy, and this is supported sometimes by statements. But my whole thing is like you see characters getting stronger and their alters changing in scale and scope throughout. You're seeing some characters get faster. You're seeing different things to indicate that speed and also indicate their strength. And of course, there's the idea that there's math in the animation, right? There's math in how these characters are drawn, how they move, and what those motions indicate. There's also math in how these characters are designed, like the geometry of them, so to speak, but also how they compare to each other in the world, right? There's math in scaling these characters to each other and buildings and mountains and how detailed some of these things are, because some of the scenes are incredibly detailed, right? Like, and then there's math in the colors, in balancing those colors, just like at every different level there's math involved, and I think that's really cool. And of course there's math in the glorious music, math in how it functions, how it flows, how it was constructed, how it's used in a scene, how it establishes a familiar pattern where you just like recognize it, you're like, yeah. And math and how it makes you feel, right? Because you got these different music, sorry, these different notes being strung together to compose a song, or at the very least a motif. And the idea is certain things might come across as sad, or it might imbue you with energy. Like I think about like Reckless Fire, the opening. It has a lot of energy. It like is reasonably fast paced, but not too fast paced. You can understand what's going on, but everything is like is treated with care. Every note, you know, because you look at how fast the notes, or sorry, you hear how fast the notes are being played, and at what volume, and also just what pitch and frequency is being used, and all that stuff, what tones you're getting across, and I keep on saying look, and you also can hear how things are being balanced because there's different instruments involved. Reckless Fire is a very high energy song, and it was not an accident that that's the case. I think that's pretty cool because it's the opening, and then like Drastic My Soul, is the ending song, and it's like more somber, and there's a lot of effort that gets that across. So like at every step from the music, like how long the notes are played, what kind of notes are played, the frequency, pitch, tone, all that stuff, amplitude, you name it. Everything involved, the amount of instruments, the types of instruments, and again, those emotions that they convey, all of it is calculated, precise. And I think that's pretty cool. And then like just the music throughout the song, right? You can feel like and see the action and hear the action, and it's just like all of that is intentional, right? Because there might be certain action bits where if you played something somber, you would feel something was off because we have certain things that we associated with action, right? And just there's a lot of songs, and again, they're all intentional, and that's really cool. I dig the soundtrack. um, it's like one of my favorite soundtracks for anime in general, but also one of my favorite soundtracks, period. And then on top of all of that, right? So you have the animation, you have the scale, the scope, the music, the colors, and just how math is used all throughout that. And it's also it was an anime first, and I think like for that company that made it, like Sunrise, that's not too uncommon. Like, cause I feel like they've made some other anime that I enjoyed. That it was an anime first. So you have all those things, but then you have a manga. I'm sorry, I'm tired and I'm excited. You have a manga based on it, and when that came out, how often it came out. Um, that's mathematical, but also how the manga is structured, like and what scenes they might have been inspired by, how things are drawn, scale and scope for that, and how they get across, motion, how to get across strength and speed, and other things. And it's just like there's math and all that. And there was also like two movies for the 10th anniversary of Scryed, where they did a recap, and so there's a lot of math that went into deciding how those functioned and flowed, and yeah, so there's a lot of math in how things work in animation, right? And we can't talk about animation without talking about voice acting. When it comes to voice acting, it's something that's inherently mathematical. Not only are you concerned with the time, because you're recording these lines, and you're being careful of time, in terms of each episode, but also your personal time. There's not only math in that, but math in the actual voice acting outside of the timing. But the timing is part of it, right? There's math in the breathing, math in the volume, math again in the timing and how you break that down, not just in terms of the episode as a whole, but how you're delivering certain lines. Like you take a character like Straight Cougar, and you know, Straight Cougar might start off talking normally. That happens sometimes, but as he gets more excited, the volume increases. The pace at which he talks increases. And if you didn't know that guy was about speed from, literally everything about him, you would get that based on his talking. And by the way, Straight Cougar, very mathematical character. He's all about speed. Speed is inherently mathematical. We're talking about this, and we're talking about time. We're talking about them in terms of each other. And speed is just an awesome thing. And getting across speed is a really cool thing. And if you couldn't tell, that's my favorite character from that series. I'm just saying. But anyway, there's math and straight cougar, sure, but like all the other all powers too, and how strong and fast these characters are, and then like some individual powers like Eternity 8 from Tachibana. Um, but like there's just math and how everything is used and how much like pressure and force these characters are creating with their attacks and how they're engaging each other. And then like again the meta side. So it's just like it's really cool. It's an awesome anime. And like I said, I wasn't trying to talk about every like story beat, of course, but like there's some things that I do want to talk about as I move into like my feelings on it, which I mean are probably pretty clear at this point. Again, spoilers. So rewatching it, I dig it because like so in the first few episodes, and this is an intentional thing, is like they give some um they give the first few episodes to different characters that they focus on, right? And later they go back to that format for a few characters, but like they give these character focused episodes where it's like they introduce the character and you get a firm idea of who they are and what they're about, at least from that point in the story. And while they're doing that, they're balancing giving you enough information to go off of for this character and that character, but also developing other characters along the way and giving like different perspectives for things that happen. I am tired. This is probably going to be my last video tonight. Um, and I dig it. And then as it goes on, you deal with like characters growing and developing, both from a character standpoint and personality standpoint, but also from a power standpoint. And Kazuma and Ryoho, like their rivalry is one of my favorite things about the show and just like one of my favorite rivalries because just like those dudes, at least in the beginning, they really hated each other, but they pushed each other and they got into each other's heads, and then even when they get along, there's still that drive to fight each other because like they're more alike than they are different. And in the beginning, kazuma pretty much gets that. um with Ryoho, it takes a minute, but on some level he gets it. And then like characters around them, they either don't get this whole like fighting back and forth thing, this whole rivalry, or they do. There's not a lot in between. But their fight, they fight a couple times in a series, and it's usually pretty brutal. But the last fight in particular takes up the whole last episode, and it's freaking glorious. Like, cause there's a point where they do all this and wrap up the story seemingly, and then it's just like, oh well, no, we gotta fight again, and it truly does get to Dragon Ball Z levels. Like, it's just wild, and it just every part of it was done really well. And again, it's one of those things where everything was mapped out, and they also give you enough time to like get to know these characters, get to know what they're about, get to see their past, get to see how they think about other characters, how they think about themselves. And for characters that did die throughout the series, you got to know. All right, so my video, pause on me. I think I'm running low on space, and I need to like upload some things soon. um, but anyway, I was getting close to the end, and I'll have to fuse those parts together. But my whole thing that I was saying before getting rudely interrupted by my very own phone was that they give you enough time in the series to get to know the characters, and the characters that died, they give you enough time to like them, for an opinion about them, and sometimes get devastated by their deaths. And in the case of the really important characters, like you really get to see their impact on other characters. I'm mad that the video stopped. Like, okay, but so throughout the show, I really had a blast. Like I had a blast like around 20 years ago when I first watched it because I think like it was like what 2004, 2005. It came to like Adult Swim, and that time it was like a good lineup because like they had Scryed, they had Inuyasha, they had Full Metal Alchemist, like the first one, not Brotherhood. I think they would get Brotherhood later down the line. Either way, Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood, both good. But anyway, The lineup was sick. And there were some other shows that I really got to like watch and enjoy during that time. It was killer lineup. Um, so but going back to Scryed, right? Like there's a lot of math within the universe, a lot of math outside of the universe, and a lot of math just and how it all functions, how it flows. It is just killer. Again, I like the story, I like the characters, I like the action, I like the music, and I have like gained greater appreciation for the transitions, and the edits, and just how all that functions and flows. Because right, like those are choices. Sorry, there are choices because they got to decide when these things are going to happen, and like just how you function, sorry, how they function and flow into each other, and if there's something that's supposed to represent this, represent that, they got to make sure to get that across, whether it's in the items that are going on from scene to scene or in a transition itself and how that all works. And I think that's cool. Yeah, so Scry, it is an awesome anime. It very much supports the idea of gaining more power and more, shine brighter. But seriously, I like it, and if you couldn't tell, based on this video and based on my other videos, I very much support the basic philosophy of the show. I'm all for getting stronger, all for pushing yourself, all for following your own path. And I think that's awesome. I think that's cool. And I still can't believe my video cut me off. I think it really was a space thing, but so yeah, I won't harp on it too much. So if you've seen Scryed and you watch this, like, let's talk. If you were inspired to watch it, then yeah, let's still talk. Either way, like, I don't get to watch as much anime as I used to. So I was really glad to find some time and rewatch Scry because it is one of my favorites without question. It was from the jump, and about 20 years on, it holds up. It holds up very well. I will see you in the future. Professor Prime out.